What's up, fourth graders? We are ready for our Unit 6 test this week, and so we are going to start this video off with our Unit 6 study guide answer key and our Unit 6 study guide. So get these things collected and get ready to review. Stick around. Alright, so let's jump right in. This is the Unit 6 study guide specifically for my students in the 4th grade at Georgetown Elementary. Please take a look here at the special note. These questions are the same stories for the test, just different numbers. So because I have given them the same stories and the same types of problems, all students will be required to show their reasoning in order to earn full points. So they're going to have to show work. And if you ever wonder what I'm looking for, this answer key here will show you. Every student should have an answer key. Every student should have a study guide. If anyone needs more at any time, they are absolutely welcome to get as many as they need. So let's start off here on page 1. Here is the beginning of a list of multiples of 4. 4, 8, 12, 16, 20, 24, 28. We could continue this list all the way up until 40 or more. The question here is select 3 statements that are true about this list. So letter A, the terms in the list add by 2 each time. That is not true. We know that the terms in the list add by 4 each time. So this one is not true. B, the 10th term in the list is 40. That is true because 4 times 10 equals 40. So yes, B is a selection. C, 52 will be in the list. There's a variety of ways that we can figure this out. We can continue our list beyond the 40. So if this was 40, we could keep going and we could add by 4, because the way you make multiples of 4 is you start with 4 and you count by 4. So 40, 44, 48, 49, 51, 52. 52 is in the list. We could extend our list of multiples, or we could do 52 divided by 4, and we could do a variety of our division strategies. We could break this down into 40 plus 12, and then 40 divided by 4 equals 10, and 12 divided by 4 equals 3, which gives us 13. So we know that 52 is in the list. We can do that either one of those 2 ways. And then for D, the 100th term in the list would be 400. That is true because we know that this is 40, this is 4 times 10, and we know that the trick to adding the 0. If we add the 0 here, that is 4 times 100 equals 400. And so we know this trick, and so we know that this is true because 4 times 100 is 400. So that is for number 1. Okay, number 2. We're going to be talking about multiplication. We are going to talk about multiple strategies of multiplication in this video. And so students only need to choose the one strategy that works best for them, that they like best. So I'm going to show 2 different strategies here for letter A. So letter A, 7 times 5,124. The number 1 strategy of my choice would be 7 on the side, and then drawing your box here like this. My box is going to need to be much bigger than that. Drawing your box here. However many digits you have, that's how many boxes you need. So this box here is going to be 5,000. This box is going to be 100, this box is going to be 20, and this box is going to be 4. Because when we're doing multiplication, we are going to break down the numbers using place value. So 7 times 5, I'm going to cover up those 3 zeros. It's much easier to see this on the handout, the study guide that you have. But 7 times 5 is 35, and then we put those 3 zeros back inside the box. And we are 7. I sometimes will put a multiplication sign right here. 7 times 100 is going to be 700. 7 times 20 is going to be 140, and 7 times 4 is going to be 28. Then we're going to take these numbers, being very careful. This is sometimes where students make mistakes, is they don't write down the numbers carefully that they have. The other thing students tend to make is not aligning their ones place, making sure that the ones place is lined up. This is imperative. If you just have these things scribbled down like this, the chances of a correct answer become very, very low. So we need to make sure that we have our ones place lined up. So we have an 8, a 6, an 8, a 5, and a 3. Your answer here is going to be 35,868. That is strategy number 1. Let's talk about another strategy. We're going to take the same question and we're going to come over here. 7 times 5,124. Sometimes students like to break it up like this. 7 times 5,000, 7 times 100, 7 times 20, and 7 times 4. And then, again, we're getting the same answer, being very careful to make sure that we line up our ones place right down the side here very carefully, adding our partial quotients, these are called, from the ones place over, and we get the same answer. The choice is yours on how you want to approach this, whether you like the box or you like this. For number or letter A here, the choice is yours. Now, for letter B, it's pretty specific about how you need to go about this, because now we have 2 digits times 2 digits. I have on your study guide, it says you must use the box, and really, you really just pretty much must, because it just becomes really tricky if you don't. You're going to take your 26 and you're going to find the value of the 2, and that goes here, and the value of the 6, that goes here, because 2 plus 6 equals 26. Okay? And then same for here. The value of the 9 is 90, the value of the 4 is 94. The reason this works is because we're finding the area of the square. We're finding the area of the square. And so we're multiplying. So this, a lot of times, we also will draw arrows like this. The 20 goes all the way across, the 6 goes all the way across. And then the 90 goes all the way down, and the 4 goes all the way down. And it's really important that you recognize that the 20 has to go fully across, and it cannot go diagonal. So the 20 goes across, the 90 goes down. 2 times 9 is 18, and then I have a 0 here and a 0 here. This is how this works. 9 times 6 is 54, and I have a 0 here, so my 0 comes down. Now I'm going to take this 20 all the way across to the 4. 20 times 4, 2 times 4 is 8, and I replace my 0. And then 6 times 4 is 24. Now I have all of these answers, and I can line them up carefully and then add my partial products. 4, 14, 14 again, and a 2. On your study guide answer key, it says circle your answers. You really need to circle your answers. And again, here's that alignment. Again, making sure your ones place is all lined up. These are the tips and tricks and thoughts for page 1. Stick around for page 2. Alright, so the big kicker for page 2 is the division. Here we are in division. Students have a paper that gives all sorts of different division strategies. And so you can look at that paper as you study. I am going to highlight 3. I'm going to highlight repeated subtraction, partial dividends, and then turning the division around to make it be multiplication, which we know is a thing. So we're going to start here with 615. I'm going to start in the same way that I started on the study guide itself, with the repeated subtraction. The very first thing we do every time, first things first, list multiples. This is so important. We cannot skip this step. It is the most important thing that we do when we're doing division. So I'm going to start here and I'm going to list my multiples. 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18, 21, 24, 27, 30 is the 10th one, and that is typically where we always stop. This just gives us a really good foundation from which to start our division. So I'm going to take I'm actually going to come over here because I'm afraid that I'm gonna run out of room. So we're gonna take 615. We're gonna put it into house and divide it by 3. That's our little joke at school, if you can't tell. So I'm gonna look over at my list and I'm gonna think to myself, which number? I'm going to be very selective with the numbers that I choose, and I'm going to use the list as my guide for what to choose. So I know I have 600, and right here I see a 30, and I know the trick where I can turn this 30 into a 300. So as I said, this strategy is repeated subtraction. I'm going to take this out, and I'm going to say, okay, 3 times what gets me 300? And I know that's 100. So this is when I'm going to put my 100 up here on the top, and then I'm going to subtract 315. Now, as I can see here, I'm going to go ahead and take 300 again. I can take as many 300s as I want. I'm going to go ahead and take 300 again. I'm going to put my 100 up here, and then that leaves me with 15. The whole goal of this strategy is to get down to the bottom and get 0. That's the goal, is to subtract as much as you can and get 0. So when I do that, I now have 15 left. The subtraction I do, those are the choices I have made. And this part here is my reasoning. Why did I choose that? What was the reasoning? I chose to subtract 300 because 3 times 100 equals 300, and so the 100 goes up here. Now, when I subtract 15, I'm gonna go over here, and I see 15 in my list, which makes me very happy. So 15 equals 3 times what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 3 times 5 equals 15. So my 5 is going to go up here. And then when I subtract, I get that 0. And that is what I'm looking for. That is what I'm looking for. These are my answers, my partial quotients. I put them up here, which means that my actual answer is 205 because I add up my partial quotients. That's my actual answer. Now, that's the first strategy. Another way we can do this is we can do 615 divided by 3. And we can break down the 615 and we can say, okay, I see this 300. 300 plus 300 plus 300 equals 615. So I'm going to do 300 divided by 3. I'm going to do that twice, actually. And 15 divided by 3 equals 100, 105. Now, what did I do wrong here? Look at that. My alignment is not good. I'm going to fix that because I don't want to get confused. These are my partial quotients, and you're going to add them. Okay? Now, the only other thing that you could do if you wanted to would be to flip this around to be multiplication. So, like I did on the study guide, you could do 3 times what equals 300. You've already taken your dividend, and what's the fancy word for that? Decomposed it. Decompose your dividend, and then 3 times blank equals 15. You've already decomposed your dividend, so you know there's 100 here, 100 here, and a 5, and then these would be your answers. So it just depends on when you want to do the decomposing. When does it make sense for you to decompose? Do you want to do it as you go? Do you want to do it ahead of time? Or do you want to, does multiplication just really make sense to you in a greater way, and so you want to do it with multiplication? It's totally your call. It's whatever you want to do. So, next we're going to talk about 4-digit dividends. 4-digit dividends are going to work exactly the same. You're going to start off, as you always do, by making your list of 6s. And I'll just put our list of 6s over here. 12, 18, 24, 30, 36, 42, 48, 54, and 60. We go down to the 10th. And so I'll start over here with the repeated subtraction. We're going to put 4,267 in the house divided by 6. Now, here is the trick here. How do I choose? I already know that I see this 42, and I see a 42 right there, which makes me very happy. And so, if I can add 1 0, and we've talked about this, then I can add 2 zeros. So I'm going to subtract 4,200 because 4,200 is 6 times 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 with 2 zeros, which is 700. So that means that 700 is going to be part of my quotient, and now I can subtract. I have 67. All right, well now I can do one of two things. I'm trying to decide what I'm going to subtract, and I'm going to let the list guide me. What I notice about this list, which is different than it says in the study guide. In the study guide, what I did was I went right here and I took the 10. I just took the 10, and then I know I had 7 left and I took the 6. I could do that, or I could just add another 66 because I want to get as close as I can without going over. So if I added another 6 here and got 66, 66 divided by 6 equals 11. And if I take 67 minus 66, that gets me 1. So that's another way that you could do it. Or you could do it like in the study guide. We have 67, and we're trying to choose which number in the list makes the most sense. 60 is in our list, so take away the 60. 60 divided by 6 equals 10, or 60, because 6 times 10 equals 60. And then you have the 7, and then you take the 6. Students and I have been talking a lot about deciding what number you're going to take and trying to do the littlest amount of subtraction as possible, which would be why I might decide to take the 11. It's up to you. It's however you want to do it. But here's the kicker. Once I have subtracted down as far as I can, and this number becomes a number that is smaller than anything in my list, then that tells me that I now have a remainder of 1. So my 700 is up here. My 11 should be up here too. That is 711 with a remainder of 1 because I couldn't subtract out any more. These are my leftovers. I took the 4,267 and I put it into either 6 groups or groups of 6, however the story reads, and I had 1 left over. So that is one way that you can think about subtraction of division of a 4-digit number. So next strategy on our study guide, we have 4,267 divided by 6. We're going to decompose this number ahead of time. Again, we're going to use the 42 right here, and 4,200 plus 60 plus 6, which gets us 4,266, but I still have to add that 1. So then I would take 4,200 divided by 6 equals 7 with 2 zeros. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 with 2 zeros. And then 60 divided by 6 equals 10. And 6 divided by 6 equals 1. And then I have this remainder. So I would have 711 remainder 1. And you could do the same thing with multiplication. You could do the same exact thing with multiplication as it shows on your answer key. But for the sake of time, I'm not going to go over that one. All right, number 4. Lynn's school bought 459 packages of pens and there are 8 pens in each package. So if I have packages of pens and there are 8 in each package, my equation is going to be 459 times 8. On our test tomorrow, you are going to get points for, if you just write the equation correctly, you're going to get points. If you do the work correctly, you're going to get points. And then if you get the right answer, you're going to get points. So you have a lot of opportunity to earn a lot of points. And so I'm going to make my box again. And I'm going to do 8. And then I have 450 and 9. So 8 times 400 is 32. Well, 8 times 4 is 32. With 2 zeros is 3,200. 8 times 5 is 40 with a 0. This is when it's really tricky, when you have a 40 and a 0 already. And then 8 times 9 is 72. I'm going to put these over here, being very careful with my alignment. And I have a 2, a 7, whoopsie, a 7, a 6, and a 3. So my answer is 3,672. These questions tomorrow are going to be worth 3 points each. The equation is 1 point. The work is another point, and then the right answer is another point. So keep that in mind as we move on to page 3. All right, page 3, more word problems. Here we go. Jada's family is getting soil for a garden. The rules for a word problem. Here are some tips. Tips for story problems. Tip number 1. Read the story. How many times, students? 3. 3 times. We talk about this in class all the time. You really have to get yourself into the story. Second tip, draw a diagram if it helps. Draw a diagram if it helps. It might help on this question, and we'll look at that together. And then number 3, think. Slow your thoughts down and think. We talk about this in class all the time. Instead of just all these little teeny tiny thoughts, Jada's family is getting soil for a garden. The garden will be 293 square feet. Each bag. Instead of that, read it slowly. Read it carefully. Make sure you understand. The garden will be 293 square feet. The whole garden is 293 square feet. Each bag of soil covers 5 feet. So each bag covers a 5-foot strip like this. Now that leaves us with the question mark up here. That means we have the total. We have the full amount. And we know that the total is the dividend. We also know that the dividend is the amount being divided. So we know that we have the total amount of the whole garden. And then 1 bag of soil covers 5 square feet. So we're going to take this information and we're going to divide. The first thing we do when we divide always is what? List multiples. Do not forget even your 5s. Yes, list your 5s, because that's just going to put those multiples right in front of you so you know exactly what you're looking at. Don't skip this step. I beg you, please do not skip this step. So we have 293 divided by 5. I'm going to put 293 in the house because it is my favorite strategy. So I see the 293 here. I am going to go around with my imaginary 0, and I'm just going to look and see where it makes me the happiest. Once I get to 300, I'm too much, because if I try, here's the trick. If I try to subtract 300 from here, I know that I only have 293, and to subtract a larger number is impossible. So this is part of the thinking. So I know 300 is not possible. So I'm going to go ahead and take 250, because I know that 250 is 5 times 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 with a 0 is 5 times 50. So I'm going to put my 50 up on the top. Then I'm going to be able to subtract, and I'm going to get 43. Now when I go down through my list, I'm looking for the closest number to 43 as I can get without going over. So that's going to be 40 minus 40, because, again, showing my reasoning over here. This part is my reasoning. This piece up here, these are my quotients. These are my answers. So I chose 40 because 5 times 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 equals 40. And when I subtract, I get 3. Now what do you notice? Oh, I got to put my 8 up here with my quotient. Sorry. These are my answers. What do you notice now here with the 3? I have gotten down to a number that is lower than my divisor, and so that means that I have a remainder. So my answer is going to be 58 remainder 3. Again, I'm going to get points for the correct equation, I'm going to get points for the correct work, and I'm going to get points for the correct answer. This is a 3-point question. All of these are. These all are for the whole rest of this test are a 3-point question. All right. Mai is putting together a photo album. Let's talk about photo albums with Mai. Each page can hold 8 photos. How many pages of the photo album does Mai need for all the photos? Hold on a second. I'm going to slow it down and I'm going to read that again. Mai is putting together a photo album. Okay. She has 450 photos. That sounds like the total to me. I'm going to write that down. That's 450 photos. Each page can hold 8 photos. How many pages does she need for all the photos? All the photos is 450 photos, so I'm doing 450 divided by 8. So 450 divided by 8. There's my point for my equation right there. 450 divided by 8. First thing I'm going to do it over here, is I'm going to make a list of multiples. 8, 16, 24, 32, 40, 48, 56, 64, 72, slide up a little bit, 80. There's my list of 8s. Now I can break this down right now because I see this, I automatically see this 400. 400 plus 50. 50's not in my list. 48 is. 400 plus 48. And then that's 2 more. Okay, so it's looking like I'm going to have a remainder. I'm going to come over here and I'm going to do this. Put 450 in the house and make sure. Just because I kind of like doing the subtraction as I go. Equals 8 times 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 with a 0. And that leaves me with 50. And now I choose the 48. Minus 48 equals 8 times 6. Put the 6 up here. Now I have 2. Okay, yes. So here I am with 56 remainder 2. Here's my point for my answer and my point for my work. Another 3-point question. So over here, if I wanted to complete this over here, I would do 40 divided by 8 equals 400 divided by 8 equals 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 with a 0. 5 with that 0 that I added. And then 48 divided by 8 equals 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then I have this 2 left over that I can't divide, so I have 56 remainder 2. These are the answers and the work and the thoughts behind the questions on page 3. Page 4 coming your way in just a second. All right, and last but certainly not least, a couple more stories on the back. Claire is using square tiles to tile a bathroom, so we're going to go ahead and envision square tiles to tile a bathroom. The bathroom is a rectangle that measures 97 by 3 tiles. So what that tells me is this is a 97 by 3. That's exactly what that says. Claire is using square tiles to tile a bathroom. The bathroom is a rectangle that measures 97 by 3. 97 by 3. How many tiles will Claire need to tile her bathroom? Well, our equation is going to be 97 times 3. What are we going to do? I'm going to draw a box here because that's just how my brain likes to think. 3 times 90 and 3 times 7. So I'm going to have 3 times 9 is 27 with a 0, and then 3 times 7 is 21. I add these things over here. 291. Again, I could do this over here. I could do this like this. Break this down to 90 plus 7. So 90 times 3 and 7 times 3. 270 and 21. Get you the same answer? This is how you multiply, and you just have to understand whatever the story wants. One big thing is to remember that this answer here has a huge impact on the next part of the story. This is called a two-step word problem. So if the tiles are sold in boxes of 8, how many boxes will Claire need? Well, how many total tiles are there? 291. And how many are in each box? 8. So how many boxes are we going to have? This is the question at hand. So I'm going to list my multiples of 8. The great thing is that on an earlier question in this paper, we already listed our multiples of 8 2 times. We've already got our list of multiples listed 2 times. So you should be able to use that other list that you already had for the remainder of this test. So that is one part that is really handy about keeping your list of multiples and having it handy. Once you make the list and you hit the 10, I tell my students all the time, if you do not hit the 10, you have a problem. That's right. If you don't hit the 10, you have a problem. Now, sometimes you can still hit the 10 and still have a problem, but that's pretty rare. So, here we go. 291 divided by 8. Let's put that 291 in the house. And let's start looking. 291-ish. If I add a 0 here, that's 80. I could do that, but if I add a 0 here, that's 160, even better. But if I add a 0 here, that's 240, even better. We want to try to subtract out the most possible that we can without going over. So, I chose 240 because 8 times 1, 2, 3 with a 0, 30 equals 240. I'll put my 30 up here. That leaves me with 51. Now I'm going to go back to my list and I'm going to choose the largest amount possible without going over to subtract. The subtraction sign is my choice. So 51 minus 48. That is the best choice by far. 51 minus 48 because 8 times 6, 6 and 8 went on a date to restaurant 48. 6 goes here. That is my partial quotient. So 51 minus 48 is 3. 48, 49, 50, 51. I can just count up. I can also borrow and carry over if I need to do that. Now I have this again where the 3 is my last number, but there are no selections I can make to take the 3 away. So when I add these, I have 36, and this is my remainder. 36 remainder 3 is my final answer. Again, points for the equation, points for the work, points for the answer. All right, well that is the review of your Unit 6 study guide and the answer key that you have. Any of these answers we just went over in the video. If you have any questions, drop them in the comments and I'll try to get to those before we take our test. Thanks for watching.